Okay, so welcome to this talk about the E4 spies. I will explain you how to use them to help you to debug your Eclipse application that can be based on Eclipse 4, on the runtime of Eclipse 4, but maybe also developed with Eclipse 3 components. How many of you develop RCP applications? I guess all of you, yes, okay. And who has migrated on Eclipse 4? No, not yet? Okay, I will contact you after. Okay, so just a slide to introduce myself. So my name is Olivier Prouvost. I am an Eclipse trainer and consultant on Eclipse technology since I would say 2005, so a long time ago. And I created my company to provide these professional services around Eclipse. So I provide a training on how to migrate your application to Eclipse 4, how to use the modeling projects, Xtext, EMF, code generation, and so on. And I also help the companies to make the build again with Tyco, and sometimes to use Git because some of my customers are still using SVN or CVS. No, CVS, no. SVN, at least. And so I used to work with a lot of companies everywhere, namely in France, because I'm located in France. But I use also to travel everywhere. 3 weeks ago, I had an Eclipse 4 training in India, in Bangalore. So that can be also some funny stuff to do sometimes. So let's start with the agenda of this presentation. I will just remind you what are the spies in Eclipse 4. That will be quick. And then I will show you all the advantage of all the different spies you have by default in Eclipse. So the bundle spy, model spy, context spy, event spy, CSS, and preference. So what is a spy? A spy is a kind of dashboard that will open the door on the E4 runtime. And you will see some specific data that concern something in the E4 runtime. For instance, if you open the model spy, you will get directly a look on the application model, and you will be able to manipulate and to analyze what is inside. So these spies have been isolated in the spy platform, and you can also use this platform to extend and create your own spies to display something that is interesting and relevant during your debugging phase. So the spies are supposed to be used only by the developers. It will not be released in your final application. So usually you will use the spies with a specific launch configuration, and you don't need to add a dependency to the spies just to launch them. So that's very easy to use. It's totally transparent when you want to use them. So you can extend it, and I will show you a slide about it. So where are the spies defined? The spies were managed up to June in a separated project, the E4 Tools project, where we developed everything in this project, all the spies. And it has been decided to move them in the PDE platform. So we moved them in 2 steps. Unfortunately, with Lars Vogel, we have missed one delivery in March, and we were 2 days late to deliver the total spies. But if you use the version since June, you will get all the spies included in your Eclipse IDE. Of course, as it's defined in the PDE, you need to download the IDE for RCP and WAP developer. And if you don't have it, if you have only the Java IDE, it means that you don't do RCP applications, so you don't need the spies. The spies are only interesting if you are developing an RCP application. If you want to have the spies in your project, you need to put in your target platform the Eclipse PDE feature. But you don't need, as I said, to depend on it. You just have to put it in the target and to select the spies in the launch configurations. So how to launch the spies? As I said, you only select the spies in the launch configuration, and when you will click on select, I think I must point my computer. When you will click on select required, it will always select the PD spy core, which is the basement of the spies, and you can launch several spies if you want, or only one if you want to focus on a part, on a specific object of the runtime. And to display the spies, you will get automatically a window, in the window menu, a sub-menu containing the spies with all the shortcuts, and it's dynamically filled with the spies that you have put in the launch configuration. And of course, if you define your own spies, you will find them in this menu. So maybe you have seen that in your IDE. If you have updated your IDE, this menu is now included because it's in the PDE, and you can open the spies on the current IDE. When you will select a spy, you will get this window. This is an additional window on your application. So all the demo I will do will be done on the IDE directly. So you get this window, and all the spies are gathered inside, and you get the icons to select the spies, and you can display as many spies as you want. Of course, this is used, this is running on the E4 runtime, so if you want to move a spy in another window, it's of course possible. But the principle is to have a dedicated window for the developer. So let's have a look now on the different spies. I will just give you some tips to use them, and what are the benefits you can have to debug your application. So I will not debug an application now because we don't have time, because there are a lot of spies. And but you will see that I'm sure you will find a usage and a use case for your development. So the first one is a bundle spy. The bundle spy is an OSGI level spy. It has been explained in an EclipseCon maybe in 2016 or 2017. I don't remember. I had a talk to explain how I made it and how I extended the platform. So it stay at the OSGI level, and the goal of this spy is just to display in a window all the bundles running in your application. So it avoids to say, oh, I forgot to add the dash console parameter, or dash console, yes, and to enter some OSGI low-level commands. And with this one, you can also display, I will use my finger anyway. So for each bundle, you can have the status, if it's starting or if it's started. And if you select a spy, you can stop or start the spy. So this is really basic. You can also filter here on the names. And if you show any filter, you will see only the UI, for instance, bundles. So this is really basic. I attended the OSGI day on Monday, and they introduced a new OSGI console, which is a mix of different tooling. It's similar to Java Mission Control, and also to the bundle spy, and also to additional stuff they have done. It's totally written in JavaFX. So this is also maybe another product you can use if you want to debug, but it's not the goal of this talk. But I had to mention it because I've seen it and it's really nice. But it's written in JavaFX. So if you want to run it in your application, maybe you have some tuning to do. And sure, that would be a problem with UI. But anyway, so if you have to use the bundle spy, of course, it's probably because you have the feeling that something is missing in your application. So this is the way to check if your plugin is present at runtime. Maybe you forgot it in the launch configuration, or maybe if it's simply started, Maybe the plugin is there, but it has not been started because there are no dependencies on it, and you didn't say that it should be started. So this is usually the first check I do when I want to check something is missing in my application. I just check, are you sure that your new plugin is in the runtime? So now let's explain the pure E4 spies. And the first one, and the most important maybe, is the model spy. The model spy will display the application model that is rendered by the runtime. Probably, I'm sure you are aware about the E4 runtime. We have spoken about it for a long time. And everything you see on your screen is rendered by a renderer that will analyze a model, an application model that contains basically the layout of your application up to the part level. So you don't describe in the application level the widgets, but you can describe how your perspectives and your parts are organized together. So with this model spy, you will often use it to check how your UI components are defined and how they are organized together. And when you have to, so the first time you will use it, you will have several levels, and sometimes you can be lost inside. So I just mentioned the two main nodes you should remind. This is the Windows node, so you can open the Windows node and you will get the content of a window. So in my example here, I have two windows because I opened the E4 Spy window. So my E4 Spy windows is under this node. And often you will see a controls node. There are controls nodes at this level. There are only two in this one. And the controls contain all the UI elements and the layout of your different components. So for this example, you can see that there is a perspective stack, because this is the model spy opened on my IDE. And when I took this snapshot, I have opened three perspectives, the modeling, the Java, and the Git perspective. And the Java perspective contains this layout organization. So this is very handy to check where is my part, is it well organized. But I will show you also that you can use that to fix some layout problems. So what can you do with this? You can, there are many information inside the model spy. First of all, you will get all the real IDs of your objects. If you still develop with Eclipse 3 mechanisms and you still use, for instance, command and handlers with IDs, you know the IDs must match together, you can find these IDs in the model spy because there is a command category and you can see all the commands and all the IDs. So if you use an handler and you want to match an existing command, you must be sure that the IDs are equivalent. And especially for the menus, when you extend a menu, you must check that the menus sometimes have the good IDs. So that's a good way to use it. You can also check if a view is displayed, if a command has, why a command is disabled or enabled. Sometimes you see your command, but it's disabled. Don't know why. The first check is to open the model spy and to check if there is an handler, for instance, for this command. So it's really easy to find this handler in the model, and maybe to check if the IDs are okay or if the handler is bound to another POJO class. If you forget your POJO class, you will have a disabled command. You will use it also to fix the global layout. If you organize a perspective, it's always very cumbersome to compute how the views should be organized. I want 30% on this part, 70% on this one, maybe 25%. So it's really easy to use the model spy and just organize your views as you want, and then you get the values in the spy, and you can report them in your application model or in your fragment. You will also control the UI components to check if all the UI components you have are available, or maybe you will have too many UI components because you have too many dependencies. Why not? You can also use the model spy to check if model fragments have been correctly included in your main model. Just to remind you, when you make an E4 application, you keep the modularity of RCP like you have in RCP3. So you create globally a main plugin that will start your application, and it depends on other sub-plugins that contains UI. In Eclipse 3, you have extension points of perspectives, views, so extensions of that. In Eclipse 4, you will have model fragments. So you keep the modularity design pattern, and you can, by defining model fragments, you will contribute to the main model that is displayed in the model spy. So sometimes, when I just do training and exercises, the people have nothing in their model, so we check that. We check that the model fragment is included in the model because maybe some stuff is missing. And you can modify the live model, and I'm sure you will find also many other tips because you will see that it's very rich. There are a lot of information inside. So let's have a short demo on this model spy. I will not waste too much time inside because there are other spies to check. But so this is a basic IDE with some. I developed an application for this conference, but I will not use it because time is too short. So you have the spies menu. You can open the model spy. I will zoom on it. And in the spy menu, in the model spy, you can here, as I said, open the windows. So I will open the window, trim window, E4 spy windows, this window here. It's, of course, in the model spy, in the model. And if you open it, you can see in the controls category, you will get a part stack with the model spy. This is exactly what we have reflected here. And the wanderer just wandered this part. If I open other spies, and I come back on my model spy, you will see that the part stack has been filled with the two other parts here. So it's totally dynamic. And if you want also to move, for instance, an object, so I've got, I will explain this bug after. If you move an object in the model, that will be reflected as expected, at the first, for instance, here at the first position. You can also modify some values if you enter something that will change the title. So it's just to show you that it's totally dynamic. You can control also the classes that has been bound to the objects. And you can also organize your, something important also, excuse me. You can check for all the UI components. You can, by your right click on a part or an element, you can show the control in the UI, and that will display where this component is inside the UI. So you can really very quickly check if everything is organized correctly. So I don't have time to show you more than this, but if you open a perspective, if I open the control here and there was a perspective stack, and the perspective I can play to change the organization of the parsage containers here, the values will change. If, as you can see, that's moving in container data, this is the container data. If you sum the two values, you will get the proportion of the two parts on the left and the right, or bottom top, depending on how it's defined. So basically, you get all the information of your UI, and for free, it will analyze also the widget tree. So I said the application model stops at the part level, but it can also display the widget tree, and you can have, so for this example, it's not very relevant, but in this one, you will get, for instance, placeholders that contains some composite, and you can also check where are defined these composites. So if you want to describe your UI, that can be interesting. Okay, so that was the most rich spy, I would say, about and to check the UI. That's really, really interesting. When I just provide the training, we are always in this spy to check if everything is okay. Another spy, very important, is the context spy. The context spy will display all the values you can inject in your application. So I don't know if you are aware, but if you use the E4 runtime and you develop E4 plugins, pure E4 plugins, you will be lead to use the injection. Because injection is really handy to use. It removes a lot of listeners that you should define. And basically, when you define a method that has an inject annotation or field, the E4 injector will remember that this method has injected this parameter with this class. So if the value changes in the context, and the instance is replaced in the context, the value, sorry, I must unzoom, the value, the method or the field will be reinvoked or reinitialized. So it removes a lot of tons of listeners. For instance, if you have a method that has an @inject method, @inject annotation, you inject the current selection, you will be notified every time the selection has changed anywhere. And you can also filter directly. If you inject the selection and you select a type, it will only invoke the method if the current selection is instance of this type. So you don't have to care about the type. It's already filtered by the runtime. So it removes a lot of code that we had in Eclipse 3. But the problem is to know what you can inject in the code. So the context spy will display all the context available in the E4 runtime. Something I forgot to mention on the previous slide is that the context is a tree of maps. So you have a top map, a top tree node containing a map, and then you have submaps containing values. So it's due to the organization, the structure of the runtime, and the runtime will distribute some context to the objects displayed, basically. So you have main context and a context, for instance, for a part. And you have an OSGI level context where all the services, the OSGI services are published, so you can get them. And they are available everywhere in the code. I'm sorry about this one, there was an issue on it. I had to open it because there was a Stack Overflow on this one and it has appeared it was working before, but it has appeared not a long time ago, so I opened an issues for that. I will fix that anyway. You have got application level values and lower level values. So this window is not, don't be afraid of it. It's not really difficult to use. You have here the tree of map, excuse me. So each node is a map. So when you click on a node, you will get the map values, basically. And of course, if you are looking for a value, that's very difficult to find because there are a lot of values, especially if you are using the compatibility layer that will produce a lot of stuff inside the context, the context maps. You will find some legacy keys inside. So you can filter and you can enter a value here. And if you click on Show Only Filtered, it will display in the map only the key, the lines where the key or the values contain your string. And it will highlight in blue color the nodes where these values are present. So you can find easily values like this. So I use the context spy to debug my application, first of all, to check all the values available in my runtime. So that can be also interesting to explore and to know what are the types available. If you are on an Eclipse 3 runtime, the old Eclipse 3 runtime, you have to open the debugger and to check everything, all the variables. It's not possible to parse. You will find also the keys for the objects to know what you can inject, because when you inject, you will put the name of a class or an ID. If, for instance, for the current selection, you cannot say, I will inject object, because everything is object. So you will have a specific key for that. And you can also check if your objects you added manually in the context using this method, Eclipse context set with your key. You can check if your business objects you have put in the context, of course, will use the context for also your needs, because it's really interesting. If you change, for instance, you use documents, you can put a document in the main context, and then everybody is notified that the document has changed in the context. Don't have to have document listener and all the method around this. So you can check that, and you can also control if an object is at a white level, because depending of the code, you will have access to, for instance, always the application level. But if you are in a part project, so a view, and you give the code of the view will have access to the specific context of the view and all the context of the parents. So we'll have different values depending on the level. So I can make a demo and a demo of a Stack Overflow exception. So because the first node, so I will not click on it. I just mentioned it, but I don't want to make a bug in the demo. The OSGI context, if you click on it, for the moment you will have a Stack Overflow. So sorry about this, because it's computing values, and I think it's changed the values in the context. So when you change value in the context, it recompute the values. That's weird, but it's like this. But for instance, so I will zoom on it. As you can see, you can get all the values here. So there are sometimes a lot of values. So there are two levels of values also in the here. You have the values that are stored exactly at this level, and values that have been used using this context, but defined in another parent context. So it's a little advanced feature, but it's just to know where are coming the values. So if you filter, for instance, I don't know, I search for something that should be named window, you will get all the places. So here you have got all the values. So as you can see, it's on the IDE, so you have the legacy prefix. If you are on a pure E4 application, if it's your own application, you will get really less values than this, because the compatibility layer is really feeding the context with so many values. Okay, so next spy. This is the event spy. So I will not detail the code because I don't have time, but in Eclipse 4 runtime, there is one class which is important for events. It's iEventBroker. You can send an event and receive it by injection. So you do something and you send it and you can receive it. So of course, it's maybe not relevant for high-level event-based software, but if you have to send some events, sometimes that's very easy to do. So to send an event, you just give a topic, here a topic name with a string, and an object that you want to share with the receivers. And when you want to receive this object, for instance, this is an alarm object, you have to use this annotation in an injected method. So this method means that when the object that contains this method will be instantiated, the E4 runtime will remember that if this event with this topic name is sent, I have to call for this method will be invoked. And you will receive the object. And of course, you can also add any object that is available in the context. So that will remove all the listeners again. But if you want to trace all the events, oh, sorry, I forgot to explain also that there are internal events also if you want to be notified that, for instance, the application startup is complete. That will be launched during the life cycle of your runtime. So to do that, there is to check that you have an event spy that will display all the events. And so you can launch it, you start to capture events, and then you will see all the events displayed in this spy. So I will show you very quickly on this one. The event spy is there. So there is nothing displayed because you must start it. So you start capturing event. And then when you do that, for instance, when I move a window, I get the events, the relevant event. So in this example, you have the key of the topic here. So all these keys have constants. They are defined in constants in UI events interface. So if you just write a method, inject method, with @UI event content, and you put this string, you will be notified every time a window is moving. Unfortunately, in this spy, I have seen that you can, I don't know why, but I think it's during the migration. I didn't manage this one, but you should have more information. You should have the old property value, the previous property value when it has changed. But I think it will be updated. because it's really interesting to have that, to have this. And there is another part where you can add filters, and you can filter on the prefix. And so I will not, don't have time to show you that, but because I will, the time is quite out, so I will skip that. CSS Spy is very interesting. You can customize everything in your UI in E4. You can use the CSS Spy to know where are the widgets. And in the CSS Spy, you will get the tree widget displayed and all the values you can change. And also fragments, CSS fragment that you can use in your code and in your configuration, in your CSS configuration. So to use that, you have also a CSS scratchpad. So I will show you. You open the CSS Spy, and when you click on any widget in your application, you will see the tree displayed here. For instance, so that was a tree. And if you check the values, so you click on the tree, you get also the class, the CSS class in these columns, and CSS ID. It can be interesting to set this in the CSS file, and you can change the values directly to check if it works. So you can put, for instance, I will break my Eclipse, but anyway, this is for the demo. You can change the color of this tree, for instance, directly. But of course, you will prefer to extract the CSS fragment here by clicking on this button. You can copy this and put it in the CSS scratchpad, and you can apply these values on all the tree and check if it works. So if I do that, I should have all my trees, object tree, SWT tree changed. If you need more information about UI customization, I have a lot of tips for that. You can change the CSS, but you can also override wanderers. I have got a project for that with a customer, and they are really aware about this, and they are expecting UI with at 1 pixel. So you must check everything, and we can change that with Eclipse 4. So time is up, so I must really go faster. So to finish the preference spy, this one is interesting if you want to find the preference value and to know who defines this preference value. So this is an additional spy where you have just a list, and you can select how you want to present the list. You can have a tree-based also list where you will have default values, instance values, and you will get here in the filter the capability to enter a plugin name or directly a value of a preference. So that can be interesting to see that. If you are looking for, yes, I must put my values back because it's not really cool. The preference spy, if I enter, for instance, JDT UI, and I select folder, I will get here all the values of JDT UI. And so there are different levels. You have the super default values defined in extension, and instance values. So it depends on the level. But if you, for instance, are looking for a color that is defined somewhere, you have this color, for instance, you can search for it, and it will find all the bundles that will define this color. So you can also enter this value directly. Oh, there was Stack Overflow also. So maybe we'll fix 2 bugs at the same time. Okay, so that was working yesterday, but okay. So you can find values anyway. I'll try it. Sunset. So it filters. So it filters all the plugins that contain this color. So it can be handy to find colors. So to finish, so you can check with this preference spy some IDs that can be interesting if you have to fix preference bugs. If you want to create a new spy, just depend on the spy core plugin, extend this extension point, and you have only to provide this class So basically nothing. You provide the name of the class, the part class that will implement your part, your spy. So you just do what you want inside. You can receive by injection any object. So that would be very handy if you want to display any information. So you can use that, for instance, to control and to monitor your network transfers, for instance, or if you want to monitor the memory or whatever. For instance, if you want to make a spy that will display all the history of selection, you can create a part, you inject the current selection, and you just fill a table with the current received selection. That will maybe take 5 lines. So that's very easy to do. So that's it. Sorry for the rush, but 35 minutes to explain all the spies is not very easy. Only three slides per spy. Of course, I stay available if you have any questions, or if you want to have, if you want to speak about your migration of your application, for instance, And please don't forget to evaluate the talk. It's important for us to have your feedback to make it better next time. If you want to keep in touch, you can send me emails on the OPCoach website, and I will also provide all the slides on my website. There is in the menu you can get all the conferences material I have done with all the video that we'll get later. So we'll publish everything. So thank you for attending. I don't know if you have any question. I'm sorry we are out of time, but if you have any question, it's okay. Yes.
What do you think about adding to start different? In the past, I think it would have been great to have a spy to list all OSGI service components and the reason why they are maybe not or can maybe not be activated.
We can do that, yeah. That could be interesting.
Did you try the web console? Sorry? Did you try the Apache Felix web console?
No,
you have everything already.
But in it's OSGI competency, what you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. If you have to check also the JavaFX console of OSGI, yeah, and I think it's inside. But it's also totally possible to do that, yeah. No problem. I have in my side projects with a guy from Thales, he developed 90% of the code. He developed just to train a spy to display adapters. You know adapters to know you can transform an A instance into a B instance. And with the adapter spy, you can follow all the transformations, the possible transformation. So you can, for instance, find, oh yes, I've got a D object and I want to transform it into an A instance. How is it possible? And you can find the path with the different adapters and you can apply the adapters. So this spy is not, unfortunately, migrated to PDE, but it exists on GitHub, and if there was a demand, I will migrate it. It's interesting, it works well. So you can imagine any kind of spy. And I hope if you want to contribute, you can contribute. You will become PDE committer, as it's installed in the PDE. It's better than E4 tools committer. You had also a question, maybe? No? Any other question? Okay, thank you, and see you later.